Ladies and gentlemen, friends and seekers of truth, life will inevitably bring us face to face with suffering. Yet even in our darkest hours, Viktor Frankl's philosophy offers a lantern of meaning. Psychologists remind us that human beings have the potential to find meaning under any and every circumstance. Frankl himself, having endured the concentration camps, understood that in even the worst circumstances imaginable, the most powerful freedom we have is the freedom to choose our attitude. He insisted that life never ceases to have meaning, even in suffering and death. In these words we find our first hope. Suffering need not be meaningless. In our world today, ravaged by war, a pandemic, division, and loss, fear and uncertainty can feel overwhelming. Yet even amid such global crises, we are reminded that we can choose not to let fear and pain win, but instead search for purpose. Logotherapy, Frankl's therapeutic approach, urges us to refuse despair and to hold on to hope. As one modern reflection explains, even when fear clouds our judgment, each vision of the human transformative spirit carries hope. In the end, Frankl believed that the very foundation of human motivation is the search for meaning. This will to meaning drives us forward even when everything else is stripped away. Imagine the scene of a concentration camp. Emaciated bodies, despair in the air. Frankl observed that survivors were those who still held onto some purpose, however small. Perhaps the thought of seeing a loved one again, or finishing a work left undone. He noted that even amid brutality, those who survived were able to connect with a purpose in life to feel positive about. In fact, he famously said that even when all external freedoms are taken, we still have the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. In other words, our freedom to find meaning remains unshakable no matter what reality we face. Today, these lessons resonate deeply in the face of modern tragedies. Consider the people of Ukraine, who have lived with fear for years as war rages across their land. Psychologists who have rushed to help describe the very real danger of an epidemic of trauma disorders resulting from this conflict. Yet they stress something profound. Even in these horrors, people find resilience not just in material aid, but in spiritual connection. They say that resilience comes from relationship, from connection to self, others, nature, and spirit. This insight echoes Frankl's own. Studies confirm that discovering meaning is central to recovering from trauma and even to post-traumatic growth. In the midst of bombings and displacement, finding a reason to keep going, whether it is love for family, devotion to country, or belief in a higher purpose, literally saves lives. On a different battlefield, our smartphones and social media platforms have created a quiet crisis. Young people today face relentless pressure. Curated images of perfect lives scroll past at every turn. Expert analysts warn that the explosion of social media and always-on technology intensified mental health issues among a generation. Surveys reveal that these platforms often have a net negative effect on the well-being of young adults. It is as if the constant feed of images and notifications breeds an ache inside, a longing, a fear of missing out, a sense of not measuring up. Frankl's words cut to the heart of this modern angst. When a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. Endless likes, binge-watching, constant connectivity. These are all attempts to fill what Frankl called the existential vacuum, but they only leave us emptier. The cure, Frankl would say, is the same ancient answer: find your why, not your next scroll. Look up from the screen and ask, what truly matters? What can I give my life to? In our personal lives too, suffering finds many forms: loss of a loved one, illness, betrayal, shattered dreams. To each of us, Frankl's teaching offers solace. He knew what it is to grieve. He lost his wife, parents, and brother during the Holocaust, and he also comforted others in grief. He once helped a devastated doctor whose wife had died by gently reframing the man's loss. Frankl asked him, "What would have happened if you had died first and your wife had had to survive without you?" The doctor realized with a jolt that his life had spared his wife even greater suffering, and this simple realization gave him the strength to keep living. In that moment, Frankl had shown him that surviving itself could honor his wife's memory, a purpose to carry in his heart. In our own losses, we too can find meaning, to live on for others, to dedicate love and action to those we have lost. As one spiritual writer put it, Frankl chose to be worthy of suffering. He urged us not to waste the crucible of pain, but to wear it like a badge of purpose, letting it deepen our compassion and commitment. Reflecting on Frankl's ideas, one senses echoes of the great faith traditions. The road of suffering leading to wisdom or salvation is an old theme. Dostoevsky wrote that a man's road to salvation must be through suffering, that even in agony, there is a divine spark to guide us. Carl Jung observed the world as both brutal and cruel, and simultaneously one of divine beauty. In Frankl's own words, suffering strips away our distractions and unlocks questions of larger meaning, opening our hearts to compassion and creativity. This is not to deny the reality of pain or the right to cry out against injustice. Frankl himself was not a Pollyanna about suffering, but it is to say that in the very furnace of suffering, something sacred can be forged in each of us. We come to know ourselves and our values most deeply. We must also remember that across religions and philosophies, love and meaning transcend all. Frankl proved over and over that no matter what race, culture, or creed, our deepest hopes are universal. Through love of another person, devotion to a cause, or even simple acts of kindness, our lives acquire purpose. And if work and love are taken from us, we are left with our attitude. We have the freedom to say yes to life and to its meaning, no matter the circumstances. As Frankl wrote, even when all seems lost, every situation, even the worst, can be turned into a success by the decisions we make inside. Suffering and tragedy are inevitable for the human condition, he said, but we are not doomed by them. We choose whether they become stumbling blocks or stepping stones to something higher. Consider those men Frankl saw in the camps, who walked among the prisoners, sharing their last crust of bread. They proved it. When you have a reason to live, you can endure the worst. Nietzsche put it simply, and Frankl agreed. He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. Dear friends, each of us has our own why in our heart. It could be love for a child, commitment to a principle, faith in something eternal, or even the next chapter of a story we began. When tragedy strikes or anxiety gnaws at us, we can hold tightly to that why. It becomes our anchor through any storm. In Viktor Frankl's words, we may not be able to control our circumstances, but we always have the space to choose our response, and in that choice we find our dignity and our destiny. So let us embrace this life with courage. Let our struggles deepen us rather than break us. Each moment of suffering can be a laboratory of love, an opportunity for growth. Whether you're bearing the weight of personal grief or feeling the ache of global despair, remember Frankl's lesson. Within you is the power to give this suffering meaning. You have the freedom of the soul to turn the worst calamity into a cause, and when you do, you will not only survive, you will inspire others to survive too. Viktor Frankl's legacy calls to us, even in the shadow of death, even amid emptiness, life can sing a song of meaning. In the words he once borrowed from Nietzsche and made his own, let us go forward with our why shining bright, so that no how will ever be too much. In finding purpose in pain, each of us finds life's true light.